Hello there. Hello, welcome everybody to LinkedIn for Professional Services. And then you also got a little glimpse of my cracking content on there as well. It's one of those days.
I thought I dyed my hair.
It's one of those days where absolutely everything is going wrong. Welcome, Chris. I'll just introduce myself and then I'll give you a chance to properly introduce yourself to everybody. My name's Heather Murray. I'm director at Beasting Digital. We're a content strategy, copywriting and training agency. I'm based in Birmingham, as you can hear from my accent, but we've got people dotted all over the UK. We're a fully remote business. So we run LinkedIn accounts for various professional services businesses. So we're really immersed in the whole world of LinkedIn. And also a big thing is every penny we have made as a business, we've been going for sort of 2.5 years, has been through LinkedIn. So I'm very invested in how it all works. And Chris is my mentor for all things LinkedIn as well. So I'm really excited to have you here today, Chris. If you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be fab.
Excited to be here too. Yeah. I've loved working alongside you these past few months. I know we've come on leaps and bounds, but hi everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name's Chris James. I also come from an agency background. Past sort of 5 years working at a high-end content agency in Manchester, the fastest growing agency in the Northwest, sort of integrated approach, but I sat on the content arm working in sales, and sort of halfway through COVID started dabbling with some content, primarily on Instagram, switched across to LinkedIn, and now I own and run a consulting firm with a couple of employees, and we help small business owners win more clients using organic social media. So the program is called Content to Clients, and then I have one other client that I work with one-on-one who is sat opposite me. Kind of, I guess. Heather.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, as I say, really happy to have you here and pick your brains for everybody. So yeah, LinkedIn is super important. I think my camera's a little bit off. I'm going to sit up like this. LinkedIn is super important for professional services. It's a really, I think the people that will be on this call and watching this live have taken the first step already, in that they've seen this. We've only promoted it on LinkedIn. So therefore the chances are they've already got an account. So that's the first step. But it's really important. And I've pulled off a couple of the stats. So 55% of people use thought leadership to vet organizations that they work with. So obviously that comes in lots of different forms. And I think professional services, particularly legal firms, are really, really good at thought leadership on their websites and creating white papers and distributing those, but they often neglect LinkedIn as a really, really good place to distribute that thought leadership, and also do lots of little mini posts that also position them in that way. So that's 55%. And then there's a new journey when it comes to LinkedIn. So people aren't just going to your website anymore. They are vetting you on LinkedIn. So 40% of your buyers or your potential clients will check the LinkedIn page of a salesperson or a key person's a company. So they're gonna check your personal profile or your company page as well. 31% will check for common connections as well. So they're trying to find that trust, that credibility, in the in the same way as you would when you're networking live. Who else do you know? Or if you meet somebody that you've got common connections with, it automatically forms that bond. And then 29%, so nearly a third, review the content the salesperson has posted or shared on the platform. So what you're putting out there is really, really important. And then a couple more stats. 4 out of 5 LinkedIn members drive business decisions within their organization. So you're not talking to low-level people. You're talking to people that make a difference, that can actually go ahead and buy. So there's no other social platform where that's the case. You're talking to people who can make those decisions. So that's really, really important. 4 out of 5, so huge. And then 80%, same as 4 out of 5, indicate that a vendor's content had positive, significant impact on their buying decisions. So again, we're talking about thought leadership, but my calls certainly often start with, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while. So they may never have engaged, but yeah, the content is a really important thing. So it'd be really interesting to know, Chris, why you think LinkedIn is important for professional services in particular.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can look at the whole host of, it's no secret people are glued to the devices. They're glued to social media. I imagine 60% to 80% of that time. So you look at the different platforms that we have available to us. One as people who can output and as creators, but also as consumers as well. And someone's just said, Jonathan said, the stats are mind blowing. They are. I wasn't aware of that, but again, kind of doesn't surprise me when you think about it. So you've got all these different platforms, okay? And if you look at them on one scale, where we're looking at Google, then stepping down maybe to YouTube, we've got high intent. People are on there for a specific reason, whatever it is, but they're trying to find the answer to something. They've got a problem. On the flip side, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got TikTok, who've probably got the least loyal followers, who just, they're there for a little bit of a dopamine hit, let's say. And I think a few platforms sit in between those two. One being Instagram, which I think is slightly higher intent, but still very much on the entertainment side of things. But then slightly higher up and closer to the YouTube and Google side of things is LinkedIn. And I think people are on LinkedIn for a reason. It's for business. It's an interest in business, whether it's selling or whether it's buying. I don't think many people jump on straight away to buy, but they are very interested for a number of reasons as to what other people are doing on the platform.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're in that mindset, aren't they? And a lot of people are accessing it when they're in during the work hours as well. So it's just, we find when you look at peaks on LinkedIn, they're just before they start work. So when they're getting into that mindset at lunchtime and just after they've finished. So I think, yeah, it's quite interesting, the sort of mindset that people are in. And I think the big thing with LinkedIn is that there's a lot of, when we're talking about professional services, we're talking about really time-starved people, aren't we? People who are super busy. They often have higher hourly rates as well. So they're not, why should they spend those hours, putting content out on LinkedIn or managing their LinkedIn, when it doesn't have apparently, a direct impact. So what would you say to those people about why they should actually bother with LinkedIn? I think that's a common thing. There's lots of, particularly with lawyers and a few people that we come across, a few different professional services that we come across, they just say, I'm too busy for that. Why should I bother? How would you answer that?
I would look at it as the same way as trying to get in shape, I think. You've got to understand that it's a long-term process, first and foremost. You're not just going to, and this is where I think a lot of people go wrong, they'll just stick a couple of LinkedIn posts out, not get much traction, and go, this isn't working. But that's just like going to the gym and going, I've been to the gym 4 times this month and I am not a bodybuilder yet. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to be. So there's that sort of, that side of things. But if you imagine your goal is to become a bodybuilder and you go to the gym consistently, then it's going to pay the dividends. So it's, for me, it all starts with mindset and knowing that each post is like a tiny brick that just keeps building. And you mentioned, becoming a figure of authority or a thought leader in the space. Each time that you post, each time that you interact on a social platform, LinkedIn especially, is just one step up the mountain or one brick higher to achieving sort of that notoriety within your space, I guess. And it's a beautiful thing, and it doesn't happen straight away. And if you're going to prep, you might need help. I know, obviously, Heather, you offer services to help people do this, but it will compound over time. One thing that I looked at recently with some of my clients was Mr. Beast's growth on YouTube. Now, I don't know how many people are familiar with Mr. Beast. He has the biggest channel on YouTube. I don't know much about him, but he is absolutely massive. And if you look, it starts so slow, and then there's the tipping point, and it just goes woof, completely hockey sticks. And I feel like that's just happened for me in terms of inbound inquiries, in terms of the number of likes, comments, shares, views, etc. on my posts as well. So it takes a little bit, but especially in the professional services side of things, I think there's a mindset or a blocker stopping people from, maybe they do understand the importance or the long-term benefit of doing it, but there's something that sits in the way between that and taking action, I suppose, where they are now and taking action. And I came from a creative agency from a creative industry, and I still had this, it wasn't company imposed, it was self-imposed, where I didn't feel like I could just show up. I felt everything it still had to be sort of structured and very much business liked in terms of the content. And the best thing that I think you can do in terms of showing up and starting to show up on LinkedIn, as cliched it sounds, is be yourself, because it's not what a lot of people have got it coined as, which is just sharing your last company update. So lots of companies have a LinkedIn page. A few employees every time will just share that. Oh, I didn't get any likes. What a surprise. The whole world has sort of shifted since COVID, and it's a real necessity now, if you want to be seen as a thought leader, is to go out there and talk as if you are yourself and talk to other people. So it's a consistency game, but it's also just a case of getting started in order to overcome that mental hurdle that no one in my industry does it this way, or whatever. And there are so many impactful creators you can go and follow as well. Sorry, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. I feel like I might answer some future questions you might have, Heather. But yeah, there are these constraints that I feel a lot of people have when they work in a corporate world or the professional world, that they aren't able to do or say certain things on social platforms. And that's where I now strongly disagree. And I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think when you're talking about those restraints as well, I think people think I have to speak in a very corporate way. And like you're saying about being yourself, we found ways around that. Personal content really does get excellent engagement, but you don't have to tell people what you had for dinner. There are ways around that. They can be a book that you've just read, on a topic that does relate to your work. It could be, what else could it be? It could be a sport. So some of the more corporate people that we run accounts for, they're not really happy to speak about maybe their family or anything like that, but they're happy to speak about cycling or running or a mindset or motivations or what inspires them. There is so much more content you can give that helps you be yourself a lot more without having to be all Facebook about it. In the end, it isn't Facebook. I know we have the kind of this isn't Facebook police, but I understand that you are still representing your company, but you can do so really well by just thinking outside the box when it comes to personal content. Yeah. Another thing you were talking about as well is just being consistently out there. A stat that always comes into my head is only 2% of people post consistently on LinkedIn, which I think just is just 2% of them are actually. So being consistent and being out there is going to step you above other people anyway. So I've got hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 lawyers on my LinkedIn, connected to me on LinkedIn. There's only one that actually comes up on my feed regularly, which is fantastic, actually. Alice Stevenson's Law. She's got 62,000 followers. Go to her account. If you're a lawyer, go to her account. It's absolutely incredible. She's working with Leah Turner. So yeah, really, really good expert advice there. But yeah, her account is incredible. There's nobody else. There's no other lawyers coming up. There's no other professional services people routinely coming up. We get marketers who've really got the hang of how to get into the feed. We've got coaches, consultants, but we really don't have many when it comes to professional services. So it's wide open for people to come in and represent themselves as thought leaders in their specific space.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I think a lot of the time, and this goes for everyone, they think that either their business or their life isn't interesting enough to warrant posting. But ultimately, the differences between you and the next person are what are going to stand you out. And if you can just show up and do that, as you mentioned, Alice, I'm not familiar with her, but I know quite a few. I know three accountants actually. Again, not a particularly sexy trade, but they will get so many inbound inquiries. And let's be honest, that's what everyone's doing this for, right? Is to attract opportunities rather than have to scrape around at the bottom of the barrel for leads. So if you show up enough and you just don't stop, your chance of success just skyrockets. It really does. And I'm talking accountants, heads of accounting firms. There's Jerry Williams, there's Francesca, both on like 60K followers, similar to Alice, who they just put a simple message out and they will get inbound inquiries because they've spent a year, 2 years just showing up, being themselves, doing a couple of lives like we are now, just talking, showcasing a bit of personal life, talking about some of the failures, talking about some of the successes. Maybe they'll chuck the odd dog picture in, and contrary to what you said, Heather, maybe once or twice they will share the lunch, only once or twice though. But just all this different mix. And if you imagine being front of mind, so I'm looking for an accountant. Oh, who was that woman that posted the other day? Oh, it was Jerry, or it was Francesca, or Zoe Whitman is another accountant who's got like a cult following. It's crazy, and all really lovely ladies as well. But who's top of mind? Is it the person that you've seen a company post from who's got no face, or is it this person who you might even know their dog's name or their daughter's name or something like that because they've just shown up in your feed consistently? So that is, I think, the power of it is unlimited, or certainly sustainable leads coming through to your business. You're a prime example of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's people remember me because I'm all over their feed. I just consistently appear, and I have done for the last couple of years. And Nikki's just put a really great point actually in the messages about people forget. So the lurkers, we can't avoid the lurkers. So measuring success, I think we're popping all over the place at the moment, but measuring success. So people think success for a LinkedIn account would be having thousands and thousands of followers. It's really good, and it has its use. Lots of engagement, lots of comments. But actually, my biggest accounts, so some of the biggest businesses in the world actually read my posts, but they never engage, but they're reading them. They're lurking. We call them lurkers. They're lurking in the background. And then when I start calls, they already feel like they know me a little bit. So they know my face. It's like they've seen me at an event and we've had a little chat. We've had a coffee together, if it was to compare it to in-person events. And that really helps warm that conversation and shorten that buying cycle. It's a fantastic thing when that happens. But as I'd probably say, every single person that I have sold to has never once engaged. They've never reacted to my posts. They've never commented on my posts. They've just been sat watching. And then when they're ready, they think, I need some copywriting. I need LinkedIn ghostwriting, whatever. That Heather Murray does it, or that one with the red hair, where is she? And because I'm consistently there, I'll pop up on their feed and they go, that's the one with the red hair. So it just puts you in their consideration set.
Exactly.
Which is really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because you think for you to, as a customer or a client, for you to buy from someone, you're gonna have to trust them to exchange cash with them and pay them for something. You can't trust them if you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So it's consistently, I know it's no like trust, of course, obviously you got to like them as well, but just sort of reverse engineering that. If you're consistently showing up, and it doesn't have to be, mega overproduced videos, it can just be writing a little post and sharing a picture. It's as simple as that. It's the consistency thing. But yeah, lurkers are a big thing. I've experienced exactly the same, where people have just booked a call in my diary. They already know who I am, because I've been doing this posting. And how easy does that make the conversion or the sale in the end so much easier, rather than you go and have to, I've worked in doing cold calling, where I've actually got to convince a complete stranger that it's even worth their time to meet with me, versus complete strangers going, oh, it's worth my time, I want to meet with him 2 years later or whatever. And I've not even been on the platform a year, and it's crazy how quickly things can snowball. And the fact that these people, you mentioned these lurkers who are booking in with you, it's because they want something that you have or that you're able to do. And it's because you are the one showing up on LinkedIn, being yourself consistently, and makes them think, oh, I want a piece of that, or I believe that person could impact me, versus someone who posts a company update twice a month. There's so much power. And this is the way the world is going. And another thing I would say is personal brand is kind of recession proof. So from at a company level, I believe every company should encourage their staff and their employees to build a personal brand, because in turn that will pull people into your business. From a personal level, wherever you go, you take your personal brand goes with you.
Yeah, and that's something that people often think about as well. So they say, is LinkedIn mine, or does it belong to the company? Who does it belong to? It is always yours, but whilst you work for a company, you usually, within professional services, might have to adhere to certain rules. But there is still plenty, I think, marketing departments and the people that write those rules probably need to widen those out a little bit and allow for more, as we say, personal content, because in the end, people buy from people build from relationships with people that they like. So you've got to compare it to, I think people in professional services are fantastic at networking in person. They absolutely love it. COVID was real downtime, but it's coming back, and, events are packed out. This is your digital networking. This is the digital side of things. You're able to do all of that networking, but on a much grander scale. So to neglect that a possible opportunity just seems bonkers to me, actually. I think it's really, really important to have that in your repertoire, that you're regularly networking digitally.
Yeah, 100%. One of my biggest regrets is not doing this 5 years ago. And with my corporate LinkedIn account, I had a different account. I had like 15,000 followers on that, and I had to give them up because I was doing a bit of this in secret. But I fell victim to what we're talking about now, which is these self-imposed constraints, because I worked for an employer where I felt like I couldn't be myself. Yeah. In actual fact, I could. That company actually went out and they hired or tried to hire influential people in the industry to bring them more attention, which is, and I know the word influence is like kind of coined as a bit of a dirty phrase, but you do want to be seen as a person of influence within your sector, surely. And if you do, from a business sense, LinkedIn is the best place to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think there's another, thanks, Nikki, you don't need to shut up. There's another really good point from Nikki, whose content is excellent, by the way. Follow Nikki. So another thing people think about company pages versus personal profiles. So I think company pages are definitely getting more attention, in the algorithms paying them more attention lately. But it's all about personal profiles. So focusing your time, if you're going to focus it on one, focus it on your personal profile to begin, that personal brand. You can talk about your company as well. I think the way I break it down when it comes to content is I go for 60% awareness content. So talking about the topic on a high level, what's going on in the news, educate, engage, entertain, inform, those sorts of areas. Then we go for 20% personal content, because people buy from people that they like. That's how people get to know you. Then I'll go for around about 10% consideration content. So talking about what we do as a business, why would you go for us? And then 10% actually reminding people what you do and allowing them to buy it, so giving them a call to action, to book a call, to attend an event, just anything. That's the breakdown I use. It's going to be different for different people, but I think definitely putting more eggs in the kind of, that awareness basket of that kind of engaging content that doesn't ask anything of anyone. You want people to follow your profile because you're useful, not because you're trying to sell things to them.
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I see is just sales content. I'm doing this, buy it kind of thing. Someone broke this down recently on a podcast, and it's kind of similar to what you just said. But if you imagine out of an hour-long TV episode, how much of it is actually breaks or adverts? Let's say it's 25%. Let's say it's 15 minutes. That split is what you should be doing with your content. Is almost like the 80-20 rule, or 75-25 in terms of just brand building, pure audience building, engagement, nurturing type stuff, personal content thrown in, of course. And then a little chunk of the time is when we reinforce our message and actually talk about what we offer. And I just wanted to go back to what Nikki said as well. Company pages versus personal pages. And it blows my mind that, people still aren't bought into how powerful the personal brand is. But a great example of this is Lionel Messi, one of the best football players in the world, plays for Barcelona. Go and look at the difference in their Instagram follower count between the Barcelona page and Messi's page, and come back, because it's like 1 million versus 4 million or something like that in favor of the person. People identify, people buy from people. It's a phrase that's used a lot, but really, really important. People want to see his Instagram stories. So for those that aren't familiar with Instagram, you have a feed like you do with LinkedIn. You can look at all the pretty pictures, and usually that's quite curated. But the behind the scenes stuff is shown in 24-hour only available for 24 hours, sort of 15 to 60 second videos. And that's what people really, that behind the scenes content, what this celebrity is up to day, is what really, really, they know he scored a goal against Paris Saint-Germain in the UEFA League fat. I don't do football.
Yes,
but yeah, whatever. Yeah, we know he did a throw in once. But yeah, people will know that sort of the highlight reel, but they want to see what he's up to when he's around his family. Maybe what he is eating for dinner, maybe what his back garden looks like. And there needs to be an element sort of everything attached. And I think, behind the scenes content and vulnerable, almost, I post about my failures quite a lot because people resonate with it. It's too many people are trying to do this. Oh, we did this, or we're achieving this right now. This is our plan. And that's cool. I think that there's a place for that. But it's also like, if you can get down on a level and be vulnerable, and you think the end of a film in the cinema, people stick around for the blooper reels because they're funny and they want to see these like perfect celebrities just mess the hell up out of their lines, and they enjoy it and they identify with that too. So that when you talk about this split, I think it's really, really important. But also I think it's really important to be done from a personal brand level rather than a company level, because it's so much more identifiable.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I think this is going very quickly. I think
I knew it would.
If we could talk about it, could you think what are the common mistakes? Where do people trip up the most? I know we've covered a couple already, but if you were talking about sales content, for example, focusing too much on reposting company page posts, that definitely doesn't work. You need to be writing as you. What other mistakes do people make, would you say?
There are quite a few in it. I think it comes from all the way down from a strategic to a sort of a tactical execution level, and there are quite a few. But if we look at the bigger picture stuff, it's just posting and ghosting. It's called. So you stick a post on, and then you just vanish for a week. Yeah. Even if you're starting to take or want to take LinkedIn seriously, it's best to start to try and view it as something that needs to be sustainable. So it's like a plant that you need to water, or the muscle that you need to build at the gym, or whatever it is. It needs tending to a few times a week minimum. I would say start with 3 posts, and they don't have to take ages, but just make sure you're being consistent, because that's one of the worst mistakes. And then, like you said before, not going and networking. It's just like posting your post and only focusing on you isn't going to bring people. You've got to your content. So you've got a massive opportunity of pretty much every professional in the world, or certainly a good chunk of people in the world on this platform. Again, a fraction of which will be your ideal audience. Go and seek them out, find their content, and give them feedback, give them tips, give them your response to their question that they've asked, or show them that you care a little bit. And in turn, every comment that you make on LinkedIn has your headline, your profile picture attached, and it's just planting those seeds that you may be, the ghostwriter agency owner with the red hair might actually be able to help me. Maybe not yet. Maybe I'm just, red hair. Okay, red hair woman, Heather something. Then the posts just keep building. It's like, ghostwriting. Actually, she made a bit of sense on that post. Oh, she does ghostwriting. Oh, right. Yeah, I know what that. Actually, I am going to book a call with her, because you finally get hit with that sales content piece that we mentioned, that 10% from Heather Murray, and it's like, damn right. Actually, I need that, and that's what this is. It's a game. It's a jigsaw puzzle. You have to just inch your way forward in it. So one of the big mistakes is not going and seeking out and speaking to people that are, and this includes competitors, everyone, just focused on your industry as a whole. The other thing is like just sticking up massive, if we're looking on a more sort of tactical level, sticking up massive posts that aren't laid out correctly, have no white space, they're not able to breathe. I think people are afraid of using emojis quite a bit, and just trying to be a bit different, and rather than doing what everyone else is doing. I see a lot of copycats on the platform. These are existing people, obviously, but just breaking down posts into small digestible nuggets that people can take away, regardless of irrespective of the subject matter, is another one. I see a lot of people without profile pictures. That's a big one.
Yes, that's a really big one. Yeah, you're not going to trust them, are you?
Don't know who they are.
Yeah. Don't know that it's genuinely them either. So
you can, if you want to start taking LinkedIn seriously, you can hop on YouTube and just put how to optimize or set up LinkedIn profile, and you will get a decent guide what you need to do in those initial steps. And then I would heavily suggest speaking to someone who's been involved in the on the platform for a while and getting some recommendations from them. If you're a service-based business, go and speak to Heather. If you're a personal brand and you own a small business, coach, consultant, agency owner, freelance or whatever, I can help you out and give you some pointers. But yeah, it starts with just being able to set aside half an hour 3 times a week and making it sustainable, just treating it like the gym that I mentioned earlier. But really big mistakes. The biggest mistake is just not doing it at all.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
biggest
not bothering.
mistake.
Yeah.
You're losing, you know, imagine in a year's time, if you kept this habit of half an hour 3 times a week up, imagine, especially if you work in sales or you're at director level in a business and you can just put a post up. Because I know people like this, they can put one post up and they can make thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds just off one post. Now, it's not the one post, it's everything leading up to the one post, of course, but they can then choose how frequently they put that one post out. And whilst you're not doing it, and your competitors are, even if their content's rubbish content is probably still better than no content. And I think that's, again, what some people are afraid of. So loads and loads of tactical mistakes, a few strategic mistakes. The biggest mistake is inaction, and the cost of inaction is massive.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, I think that's the main. I mean, I was going to ask you for some 3 actions to take away now, I think. So, you know, people say, I'd say the most common circumstances, people set their LinkedIn profile up maybe about 9-10 years ago as a CV, as a digital CV, and they haven't touched it since. They might share the odd company page post. They might even lurk a little bit, but they don't do anything. How would you reckon they should get stuck in and started? You know, what would be the 3 things you recommend they go away and do?
First thing I'll do is open your diary, open your calendar, and just make sure you can actually do it. Because if you're just going to do it for a month and then it's just not, which is why I say the word sustainable. If you're not able to do it for a sustained period of time, you still give it a go. But if you want to make this a viable channel, a sort of client acquisition channel in 6 to 12 months time, then you need to make sure you got the time to do it. So I will block out some time, probably just example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 30 minutes, 7:30 till 8 in the morning, just before you start work. Perfect. The next thing I will probably do is go on YouTube and just look at how to optimize your profile. You probably need half an hour for that. All you need is some words. And don't be afraid of just finding other people in your niche, looking at what they're doing and taking the best bits and making it your own. Now, it's not copying, you know, you're almost templating it. And the YouTube video or videos that you watch will give you an idea of that. And the third thing is, I don't know, obviously I'm making these up on the spot, but if you are feeling overwhelmed, then go and speak to the right person who you think can help you. But I probably, if you're not feeling overwhelmed, I will make a list of 10 people in your industry or 10 people that you're close to, and I go and follow them and engage with their content straight after you've posted your piece of content on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or half before, post, half after, and just engage with those 10 people. And they'll be like your foundation in terms of, once you've commented a few times, as I mentioned earlier, they will come back and help you out in terms of engaging with your content too. And for those that don't know much about sort of reach and stuff like that, the more likes and comments that you get, the further your LinkedIn post will spread to other networks, without going into it in too much detail. So there are degrees of connections. If Heather and I aren't connected, but one of my connections comments on Heather's stuff, there's a good chance I'll see it, because our mutual connection has commented. So yeah, those 3 things: carve out the time, go and set up your profile, and then find 10 people in your space who are active on LinkedIn and engage with their content regularly. Then when you get a bit deeper into the platform, there are loads and loads of other things that you can execute on a daily level that are going to help boost. But these are obviously very, very top level.
Excellent stuff. Okay, I was thinking what might be useful for people. I did a LinkedIn training on writing post content. It shows how to set posts out and white space and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to go and find the link and I'll put it in. So I think we've had a couple of questions. Chris, are you able to see these questions to go through?
Yeah, I've got them here. One of my clients, Ant, is on here. Hi, Ant. Carl's asked, with a good profile, I don't know if this is a question, with a good profile, posting 5 times per week and a good split of tip stories, personal and CTA, and engaging regularly with other posts, what's the rough time scale before significant leads come in? No answer to that, Carl, to be honest. And this is me just shooting straight. It really depends on the quality of the content. You know, if you're just posting 5 pictures of, you know, your foot each day, it's probably not going to get much. Granted, I'm sure your content will be higher quality than that. But I would expect with most of my clients, when we give them our roadmap and we give them a daily workflow to follow, which we call a 20-mile march, most of my clients see results within 6 to 8 weeks in terms of that. It's not leads, that's the first deal closed usually. Some much sooner, others a little bit later. But I wouldn't view this again, this is another big mistake I think people make, is only viewing this as a way to get leads. Like, it needs to be viewed, in my opinion, as a long-term plan, which is why I keep saying the word sustainable. Leads will come in if you can just give, ask, give.
Yeah, that's it.
It's all about just going out there and trying to deliver impact. I hate the word value because everyone says it and gives no context to it. But looking at what your potential clients and audience have as pain points, what's keeping them up at night, what agitates them, but also what's their desired state, where do they want to get to, and they'll have sort of surface level desires, but then also have, you know, deeper desires, which usually revolve around time, family, and money, pretty much, or status. So yeah, I would, and I'm more than happy to sort of help people hash out a plan, as I'm sure you are, Heather. I know you've got a link that you're going to chuck in the chat. Anyone who wants a LinkedIn planner to make your content a bit easier, I've got one for free on my profile in the featured posts. So you can go and check that out. But it's a tough question to answer, but I'd expect, you know, within 6 months, you'll be getting, if you deliver value and deliver impact consistently to your audience, within 6 months, you'll have leads consistently coming from LinkedIn.
Brilliant.
If you follow the right plan.
Good stuff, Chris. Thank you very much. I've got the link now to my Writing LinkedIn post training, but I can't on this. I'm using StreamYard to do this stream, and I can't actually post comments to LinkedIn. So I'm going to add it on afterwards. If I can't do that, I'm going to send out a DM to everybody that's registered for this live with contact details for Chris, contact details for me, and I'll include that how to write LinkedIn post slides and recording as well, just as an extra little bonus. So thank you so much for your time, Chris. That's been, I mean, I feel like we could talk for hours on this. We'll have to do another one.
Sure,
thank you so much. This, as always, really, really valuable, really insightful. Massively appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and thanks everyone for joining. Really enjoyed it.
Great stuff. Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Bye everyone.